One last time, one last go around. There's no off season for this man, but we're giving him an off season.
I'm so
for
sad
us.
right
he
now,
needs
dude.
he needs a breather from us.
I know.
This has been a lot. It's
I
been a big
know.
ask, and we love chatting with him every week. Joining us now is the commissioner of college football, Josh Pate, at Josh Pate CFB on Twitter. You can check out his show every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, live on YouTube, the podcast wherever you find your podcast.
Well,
make sure you subscribe to the channels.
Let's do this as a show.
Yeah.
Swag, turn your mic on.
Yeah.
Last time ever Pate State for the season, not ever, but for the season. Best year of his professional career in the media.
Oh, yes. Round
what
of applause.
A year.
Round
what
of
a
applause.
season. Josh Pate.
Round of applause.
Unbelievable.
And it ends with a clown nose on his own show because he, like me, kept thinking Indiana's not going to do this, right? And then Indiana did it. Josh Pate, good morning to you. As we put a bow on this season, have you wrapped your mind around the fact that the Indiana Hoosiers are national champions yet?
Well, obviously, given the last image you had of me on my show, I haven't. I'm struggling with this more so than Miami. Mario looks like he's moved on. They're recruiting. They're in the portal. They're getting quarterback squared away. And I've just been sitting over here, crisscross applesauce, as Nemaw would say, in a corner. It's been a tough time for me. You know, for someone who does this for a living, I really feel like I've never known less about college football than I do right now.
Well, I'm glad you bring that up because that's naturally leading into my next question. We were having a conversation on our show yesterday, and there's this idea that Indiana winning is such a baffling thing to witness. One, because who they've been. Two, because of the blue chip ratio and the star ratings that have always mattered in modern college football that you have to have in order to win at the highest level. And they have bucked both of those trends. And now it's leading to this new world of unknown in the sport of, are we going to see more of these? Do star ratings not matter anymore? Does blue chip ratio not matter anymore? So when you look at Indiana and what it means for the next, 5 to 6 years of the sport, how fundamental of a change do you view this as? Or is this this guy's a psycho? I think you've used the analogy, they're like an AI football team. Everything's perfect. Somehow there's a stat. They haven't lost a fumble since the first quarter of their first game. Are we going outlier or trend with Indiana?
I think they're an outlier. That doesn't mean the sport isn't generally trending, maybe a little bit more the direction where surprises can happen. But if people just think, oh, we're going to have the next Indiana every year or every other year, I cannot see that happening. But it's really layered. All right, so like 5 things are happening at once. The first is just Indiana in isolation. It turns out that Cignetti was a rock star head coach waiting to be given a big opportunity. There's also the matter of experience. And as much as we all would have answered the question 2 years ago if asked, hey, is experience important? We all would have said yes. We probably just undervalued how important it was. But then the third thing is the climate's changed too. So like 5 years ago, had this Indiana team attempted to do what it was doing, you would have run up on the 2021 version of Georgia, or the 2020 version of Alabama, or the 2019 version of LSU. And that's not to say this Indiana team would have been any worse. Like, they would have been just as effective. But, like, you guys remember that Washington team that Peterson took to the playoff? Mm-hmm. And they were very, very efficient, and they were effective. They were maximizing maybe a less, quote-unquote, talented roster from a star rating perspective. But then they went up against Alabama, and Alabama didn't even – rain fireworks all over them. They just choked them to death because they just had a superior roster and they had superior depth on the roster too. That's where I think it's changed. I think I always call it the tops of the tallest trees, but it's just the overall imbalance and the overall hurdle that you have to clear when it comes to playing one of these mega roster teams is not what it once was. Now, it still makes it insanely hard to run off a string of beating Ohio State and then Alabama, and then Oregon, and then Miami. Because I just listed 4 of the top 8 recruiting programs in America. So that's never easy. It just becomes a little more possible than it used to be. To where if you do what Indiana just did, whereas a generation ago it probably still wouldn't be good enough, now you put yourself within a puncher's chance of actually achieving what they achieved. But think about how hard it was for them to do what they did. You talked about how efficient they were. It's not just having underrated players. It's having players that operate almost at a machine-like robotic level of execution. I was standing next to Tom Luganbill in Miami Monday night, and he said, man, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've been around this sport my whole life, playing it or coaching it or covering it. I don't know that I've ever seen any team at any level operate with the kind of efficiency that this team has all year. It wasn't just one game. It was all year. So I still think they're an outlier. I just think it becomes a little more possible in the aggregate.
So I'm kind of curious for you, maybe not Indiana level of like shock and awe, oh my God, that program is really going to rise and become that. But the team that either missed the playoff, got eliminated quickly the way Indiana did last year in the playoff, that next year you would say could be Indiana in they took the next step, got over the threshold, could be an absolute juggernaut, whether they made the playoff or missed the playoff?
Well, the answer for me is Texas A&M, but the answer is a little different because they're not the next Indiana. Because Texas A&M is a big spender. They're a huge talent destination program. They've got a really, really highly paid coaching staff. They got a ton of money down there. So I don't know if we ever look at them and think of them that way. I think this year, really, one of the corollaries, maybe a poor man's Indiana, if you will, was Vanderbilt. Because Vanderbilt was on the radar last year, and I thought Vanderbilt, in many ways, exceeded their level of play this year that they had last year, just like Indiana did. It's just Indiana scaled it at a much higher level, a much more visible level, whereas Vanderbilt missed out on the playoffs. But I think that's the program that I've been looking at as sort of the SEC's mini version of Indiana. It's just Indiana's taking all the oxygen out of the room, so I don't think people nationally have really appreciated it. Clark Lee and Vanderbilt, who is also supposed to be a doormat of the sport, they've done sort of a light version the past 2 years. Outside of that, I don't really know that I'm looking anywhere. I'll tell you one I do have circled that hasn't done anything yet because they just hired a new coach, and that's Michigan State. Michigan State made a very quiet hire of Pat Fitzgerald, and I kept on getting texts from coaches, and they were saying, hey, I know Kiffin's getting all the headlines, and there were a bunch of hires like Florida and Auburn, Penn State, but Michigan State just low-key killed their coaching hire in a good way. And just keep an eye on that guy because he's going to bring the same kind of culture, the same kind of bedrock that he has. He knows how to win. It's a proven formula. He's going to have way more money to work with. Also, Michigan's won a national title recently, so that lights a fire under Michigan State. So just keep an eye on the Spartans.
Interesting. Josh Pate is our guest, the future commissioner of college football, at Josh Pate CFB on Twitter. He's joined us every week throughout the course of the college football season. As we put a bow on this year and start taking a look ahead to 2026, I am actively looking forward to all those August articles that come out. Who's this year's Indiana's? If this will just be a thing look at that. They came out of nowhere and won a national championship. Let me ask you about my team, Josh, because that's usually what I do in this segment. I like to get my therapy in with you here. It's been a rough week. On the one hand, we have Mario Cristobal potentially winning a national title, which would have been very painful because we've said a lot of mean things about him since he left. And on the other hand, it's like, hey, wait a minute. We've been trying to do this for 25 years and we haven't been able to break through. Indiana was nothing, and then in 2 years, they go from nothing to title. And we've long sought the claim of the next first national champion. That stat out there that Florida was the last one in 1996, until Indiana this year. They get the news of Dante Moore coming back, promoting from within with coordinators. Where is Josh Pate in the very early days, looking ahead to Oregon for 2026?
I'm just as excited as I have been the past few years. We had this conversation, on this show we have this conversation multiple times per year, but just in general, I have this conversation at least once per year with everybody about Oregon. There are just some boxes that they're going to check every year. And not the least of which is they're going to have the requisite talent roster. And people are going to try and tell you talent's overrated now, and they're going to be lying to you. You still got to have players. And I don't really care what they were rated. I care the actual truth of the matter. Do you have good football players? So I know they'll have that. I know there is a hunger that is second to none up there because, like you said, they have not gotten there yet. They have not even played for a national title recently.
Yeah.
And then thirdly, I think that everybody, not just Dan Lanning, but everybody has to take a little piece of what Indiana just did and apply it to themselves. And so in Oregon's case, and I'm going to speak broadly here, I'm not speaking about anything specifically, what I would think about is the same thing I would think about if I were Texas. I've got a lot of talent on this roster, and we don't ever hurt for it, and we're a destination for talent acquisition, and we got a lot of money to spend, and everyone knows it, and we don't apologize for it. Has that made us a little loose elsewhere? Has that made us a little lazy elsewhere? I don't mean lazy as in we don't work hard. Lazy as in we neglect certain things. Maybe certain facets of our operation aren't as ratcheted up because we've just always counted on talent to outweigh that. I would look at Indiana, and I would look at how efficiently they operated, again, almost robotically, And I would say, what did they just teach us? And how do I apply that? And it may apply different in Eugene than Austin, or Austin to Tuscaloosa or whatever. But I'm interested to see what the downstream effect is on Oregon, but also on other programs of experiencing that. Because Oregon had the unenviable task of having to experience it twice, whereas some folks just got off having to experience it once. So it's really got to hit home with them. And they got two really, really close magnifying glass looks at the Indiana operation. And at that point, you just got to look in the mirror. And I say this open-endedly because I don't know what the answer is, but I'm asking, how do they apply Indiana to themselves?
Yeah. I know a lot of people in the South right now are shaking in their boots. The Big Ten's dominating the sport. The SEC can't sniff what they're doing. I'm curious, as a look-ahead spot in the Big Ten, I'm going to assume, because I have no reason to believe otherwise, Indiana's going to be back in the mix, and all these guys coming in will just plug and play, and that guy's a psycho. Ohio State's got saying day back. They made the playoff. They were juggernaut all year until they lost. I'm curious what you think of the Big Ten, because out here, I think most people assume Oregon is going to be either the preseason one in the conference, or they'll be right behind Indiana because of the amount of talent returning. How do you view Michigan now with Whittingham? What about Penn State? You really like Matt Campbell getting that gig. I don't know if I really trust Lincoln Riley and USC, but they just hired Gary Patterson. I'm just curious how you view the top or like the middle up part of the Big Ten, because we know the bottom's terrible and they feast on it. How does the conference look next year? Because that's one thing I think Oregon's kind of benefited from, is some of these programs haven't quite been what they were years prior to them joining. Is Michigan back? Is Penn State going to get back to the top with Matt Campbell? How do you view the Big Ten next year with the Ducks?
Yeah, first off, what strikes me is the audacity to even be asking me this question, because I don't know if you guys have internet access, but I have been reliably informed. I learned the most about myself on the internet. Yeah. I've been reliably informed that once you're taking ESPN money, you can't praise the Big Ten.
He's SEC paid. Come on now.
Ten.
Yeah, he's paid.
I mean, I'm staring at a bathroom mirror right now, and if I turn around and I lift the shirt and show my lower back, there's that SEC tattoo right there. Look at it. Oh, just as blue and yellow as it always was.
Pate State University.
So yes. Look, anything I'm about to say stays between us, okay? I cannot get caught praising this conference. However, I'm going to lower my tone a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned the guy there. Now, I will take for granted that Ohio State's going to be good. I even take for granted that Oregon's going to be good. I will just never doubt Kurt Cignetti again the rest of my life, and I'm going to have it put in my contract where I'm not even allowed to doubt him. So someone has to stop me and save me from myself. But you mentioned, first off, the new hires. Okay, I don't expect Michigan State to pop in year one, but maybe Michigan, maybe Whittingham goes in there, and he's got a lot higher floor year one. Campbell just basically took all the good players from Iowa State with him. In fact, not that I ever believe there's going to be another Indiana, but if you're looking for those characteristics, for those trademarks of a guy who's been at a lower level program, not FCS in this case, but a lower level program, and he goes to a bigger program, and he takes a large chunk of his roster with him, so there's a lot of continuity. And he's just a really solid football coach who's given the big resource opportunity. Maybe that's Matt Campbell at Penn State. And you guys know I love him, so I'll always be a homer for him. But that's not the guy I'm talking about. The guy you mentioned is Lincoln Riley, because I think Lincoln Riley holds the keys to a lot of this. Because I think the rest of the Big Ten, but the rest of the country is looking at the Big Ten and saying, all right, is that thing as deep as it's going to get? Because, I mean, we've been used to seeing conferences have like 4, maybe 5 legit teams. But if it starts becoming 6 and 7 legit teams, then it's a good thing for the Big Ten as a brand. It sort of becomes a little bit of a bad thing if you're trying to get any one brand to elevate, because you get a lot more competitive balance. Mm-hmm. And you're right, with the Gary Patterson defensive coordinator hire, it seems like they backfilled that loss of D'Anton Lynn pretty effectively. This year was always the one, once they did the whole reset button thing down there, this year was always the one they were pointing to, saying, if we get it right, that'll kind of be the first year we could really, compete for a national championship. Again, I know people chuckle at that. I'm just telling you what they think, not necessarily even that I share the sentiment. So, it certainly enters pole position from a conference standpoint. They will have probably the 3 highest odds teams, along with Notre Dame, to win the national title. And I think that's fair to be the default position that you take on college football 2026 until proven otherwise.
All right, we won't let anybody know in the South that you said that. Don't worry, your words are safe here. And what shouldn't be Big Ten country, but for some reason it is Big Ten country, but that's the world we find ourselves in. I'm not going to ask you to fix the sport because I'm just going to point people to the segment you did the other night. I thought it was great. There's a lot of big issues going on in college football, and expanding the playoff is not one of them. Let's try and solve the other stuff. Before we let you go, though, I know there is no offseason at Pate State. They go 365. It never sleeps. But if there was an offseason, you doing anything? Season's over? Are we going anywhere? What's going on with Pate?
Well, you guys know the only time I really miss a show is in the spring because it overlaps with storm chasing season.
Yes.
And sometimes you get caught out on the road. You know, you're sitting there in Wichita, Kansas, and we don't exactly have a remote studio up there. So sometimes we have to preempt programming for that sort of thing. And then we'll do the speaker series, which just means we're all over the country doing sit-downs. Now, I will give you guys sort of a first swing, a first crack at this concept. So you know that I do the sit-downs with all the head coaches every spring. We've done that for several years. We'll do it again. I have been informed by certain people who represent me that the old brand has gotten big enough where we have some celebrity types, some out-of-football types that would love to be featured on the show. Now, 9 times out of 10, I just ignore it. However, for the purpose of the speaker series, if we want to mix in some non-football voices, like who do we really want to sit down? What is our wish list here?
It's a good question.
That's a great question.
It's got to be somebody that knows ball.
There's got to be a ball-adjacent angle for sure.
Like McConaughey, Texas is an obvious, like you get that.
I think one of the best.
Okay, so hold on. You're talking about, let me write this down.
Jot these down.
We need ball adjacent.
It's got to be ball adjacent.
Figure out what that means. All right, I wrote that down.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go with one of the best game day pickers we've ever had, who's going to be highlighted in awards, Timothy Chalamet.
It's Timothée, actually.
Timothée Chalamet.
Here's the danger. Yep. Now, let me tell you the danger, which you guys already know because you know where I grew up.
Yeah.
I am the first person to pronounce that T as hard as one could possibly pronounce a T. And at that point, when you introduce a good old-fashioned Timothy Chalamet on the show, I just think it goes downhill pretty quick.
I actually think you're more concerned about your wife being next to you, and he walks in, and you go, damn it, dude, you are incredibly good
Look at this guy. He's
This
got
is
everything. He knows football. He's won an Oscar.
How is this possible?
How is he winning this much in life?
Okay, so if it's not him, then who else would we think of?
It's hard to come up with other names, but I'll just tell you that I'm incredibly intrigued by the idea.
I love you're going away from – you're still going to do the coaches series, but I love that you're going to have some celebrity-adjacent people. That's great.
Yeah, and I have no clue which direction we're going to go. We've had some shockingly big names asked to be a part of it. So, who knows, maybe we'll just do it and see where it goes.
I love it, man.
Very quickly, storm season, to make you feel uncomfortable on your final appearance for maybe a couple months here. I loved your defense of the plot twister to somebody randomly yesterday. That was great. You were 100% right. She kind of asked for that adventure. Have you at any one point, as uncomfortable as this is going to be for me to ask you, have you ever followed a storm on a laptop or an iPad while lying next to your wife in bed and just leaned over and goes, the suck zone, and just awkward?
Buddy, this is not uncomfortable for me. It may be uncomfortable for the listeners. Yeah. In fact, I would probably just earmuff the kids for the next 45 seconds to avoid double entendre. Yes, absolutely yes. Would you believe me if I told you that I've done that in the past 24 hours?
I mean, yeah, it's been a long season.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
It's suck zone season.
You just got to give me some freedom and give me some trust here to answer this question. Yep. I know that we're live, but a lot of times in the down season, because there's no off season in storm chasing either, but in the down season right now, I use this as prep season. So I'll just pull up YouTube on the smart TV, and I'll watch like James Spann is a famous meteorologist in Birmingham. I'll go watch his coverage of the super outbreak of April of 2011. There's just 9 hours of local news coverage, and I'll just watch it. And I leaned over to her and said, that's the suck zone, that's the suck zone, and that's the suck zone. Because the beauty of an outbreak is you have multiple suck zones.
Whoa. Yeah.
Always want 3 suck zones, that's for
great.
sure.
3's better than 1 if you can get it.
He studies tape year-round. It never stops.
This is why we love him. He's the commissioner of the sport. One last thing before we let you go, because I know you got to go. I do need to give you a round of applause one more time. I am somebody who takes very seriously the size and the quality of a T-shirt. Like, that's a very important thing for me, as I know it is for you, as a white T-shirt wearer. And earlier this year, I bought a Pate State shirt. You came to Oregon for the USC
The
game.
fall tour, yeah.
The fall tour.
Yep.
I wanted the shirt. It's got the Eugene, Oregon on it. I bought the shirt. Now, I'm in one of those weird, like I'm a large, but also an extra large. Sometimes extra larges fit like a bed sheet. Sometimes they fit perfect. Sometimes larges feel like my kid's shirt. Sometimes they fit perfectly. But I trend extra large because I know which direction this is going in years to come. Dude, fits like a glove. The neckline, quality. And so I just, look, I don't know how much say you have in the Pate State material shirts. Round of applause for the quality of T-shirt that you produce.
Man, what a year.
That is a huge relief because the quality of the neckline and also the length of the shirt always bothers me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same.
Because I'm a tweener of LXL as well. But I'll buy an L or I'll buy an XL and it'll fit okay. But then the thing goes down to your knees and we're like, who did we make this for?
What is this? Some giant that's 8 feet tall. So,
But I don't like the super wide shirt either with no length.
It's just a perfect, fits me like a glove. So go buy it. The sizes are great at PateStateMaterial.com. Pate State, Josh Pate, college football show every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Check it out live, YouTube, subscribe wherever you subscribe, podcasts and on Instagram and socials as well. We appreciate the time as always, buddy. There's no off season. We'll do this again hopefully soon. And thank you again for joining us every week throughout the course of the season.
Hey, I love it every week. It's a pleasure as always. And you guys know now, if you get in a pinch up there, you need a hot Blazers take. You know who to hit.
Absolutely. You're our guy.
He's our guy. There you go. Josh Pate, the commissioner of college football.
Spit on that name.
You got 3 suck zones in there,
Three
man.
suck zones is more than any guy could ask for.
3 suck zones sounds great.
Also, has to be kind of the home kink. I just... With his lifestyle?
Hey, babe. Hey, look at that. See that?
He didn't
You wanna do it?
specify what 3 suck
No, he
zones
did
he
not.
pointed to either.
he did
That
not.
was what was good.
No, he did not.
Could have been 2 on that screen. Where was the third one?
Fun chat as always. We love talking to the commissioner.
Love
We went
that
a little
guy.
long there.